Hello everyone, in this short video we are going to discuss how are you going to revise your mocks. So by now I am assuming that you have taken a lot of mocks and you might not be able to recollect what exactly happened in each and every mock. And that's why it's very important for you to understand how to revise mocks and go through those questions again, how to categorize the questions and figure out which ones are the important ones and which ones are the not so important ones. So let's get going with the first bit of it, wherein we are trying to figure out why is it important to revise your mocks. The first thing is you have to commit whatever you have learned to memory. If you are not committing anything to memory, then whatever you have learned is not going to help you make decisions in the future. And that is why it is very important for you to know what went right or what went wrong in the first instance so that you can learn from it and commit it to memory. So more than just learning the concepts that are there and figuring out what the formula was or how was a question solved, it's very important for you to understand why exactly did you decide to attempt a question in the first place? Why exactly is it that you decide to leave a question in the first place? Did that question deserve to be left alone or did it deserve to be solved? And when you come across that question again, how exactly is your decision making going to change? So that is very important that you commit it to muscle memory, and that will help you improve with each passing mock. The second thing is you have to avoid your previously made mistakes in the conceptual format, right? So let's say, for example, there was a question wherein there were real solutions that were asked and you assumed that we had to find out integral solutions, and that's why you ended up making a mistake. In those kind of situations, the knowledge that you have from the mistakes that you have made is going to help you avoid those mistakes in the next mock or the next time you encounter such a scenario in the test. Also, you have to improve with each mock because that helps a lot in terms of your self-confidence. It will help you keep on knowing that your preparation is leading you somewhere nice, and that will give you more enthusiasm. It will give you maybe more optimism to prepare more or even harder for the test, and that will of course lead to a snowballing effect wherein the outcome is going to be much larger than the effort that you are going to put in. Now, how do you go about revising mocks? For this, I have shared a small technique called the 0-1-3 technique, wherein day 0 will be the day on which you will decide which mock do you need to revise. Now, once you know which mock needs to be revised, you also have to have a plan in place which will help you revise it in a structured manner. Day 1 is when you are going to do the actual revision, and day 3 is when you are going to do a re-revision of the mock. So what exactly happens on day 0? You will have to catalog the questions. I have shared a small format on the next slide where I'll be discussing about the various brackets into which you can divide questions. And once you have divided questions into these brackets, it will become easier for you to visualize which questions lie where. Now, for this particular instance, what I would recommend is you do one mock at a time, because cataloging 2 or 3 mocks at a time will be difficult, and that is why I will not recommend doing a lot of mocks at once. Now, once you are in the process of cataloging questions, what you have to understand is you have to avoid re-solving each and every question that you had seen at the mock test. It's very tempting for you to start solving questions on your own, and our memories are such that we will not remember most of the questions that we would have solved earlier. And what will happen is you will again get carried away, you will again start solving, you will again get stuck, and at that point in time you will start doubting whether you had solved it properly in the first place or not, and your confidence might take a hit. So avoid getting into all these scenarios, avoid re-solving the questions, just focus on cataloging the questions into the various types that I have mentioned on the next slide. Again, run through the solution. If you are feeling slightly jittery about a particular question and you are not able to judge which cell to place this question into, just run through the solution that would have been provided. Do not start sitting and solving each and every question. Now, I'm assuming here that you had already solved the question when you were analyzing mocks, and if you haven't checked out the mock analysis video, I'll just link the video in the description box below. So make sure that you go through that video as well, because if you analyze your mocks properly and you make notes of it, and if you also have a repository of all the questions that you found interesting, this process will become much easier for you. So if you have not been doing that, make sure that you are doing it so that you can revise efficiently in the months of October and November. Now you have to just run through the solution once if you are not able to recollect what the question was trying to ask you, and 9 times out of 10 you will be able to understand what the solution is if you had solved it correctly, if you had not solved it correctly, and your confidence will not take a hit. So look at the solution as soon as you are not very certain about which question was it. In terms of appreciating the question or trying to figure out which cell will this question go into, you have to appreciate the traps that are present in every question. You have to appreciate the bottlenecks that are there. You have to appreciate the adjectives, the adverbs that are there in every reading comprehension passage. You have to figure out which link was it that was missed in a jumbled paragraph. You have to figure out which part of the paragraph was missed in a paragraph summary question, and so on and so forth. So this is very important that you appreciate all the traps, you appreciate the hard work, the effort that the paper setter has put into making that particular mock. So make sure that you are paying attention to all these things and you are not really overlooking all these things and the importance of any question in a particular mock. So appreciate it on day 0. Now, how do you catalog questions? There is this short table that I have made here. So I have divided it into 2 parts. One is of course what you had done, correct, incorrect, attempted during the test. And on the vertical side, you will see that I have categorized it as solved and the question was solvable or it deserved to be solved. Not solved, but it deserved to be solved. You solved it, but it did not deserve to be solved. And you did not solve it and it did not deserve to be solved as well. Now we have to understand the order in which we are going to tackle each of these questions. You can't really start from question number 1 and spend a lot of time doing the first 10 questions so much that you get bored, and after that the important questions that were there, you are not paying attention to those. So what you have to understand here is your first category of questions that you are going to look at are the ones that are unattempted. You did not attempt them at a particular mock test, which means that you did not solve them, but they were solvable. So I'm sure while analyzing the mock, you would have solved it on your own and you would have seen it. But I would suggest that you just go ahead and appreciate the reason why you did not attempt that particular question. And if there is a solution, just try to come up with that solution on your own. Don't solve the entire question. Just try to visualize what the solution should be. And that should be it. You should just let it go at that point in time. The second in terms of hierarchy are the ones that you got incorrect, but the ones that deserved to be solved. The third in the hierarchy are going to be questions that you solved correctly and they deserve to be solved. You just have to figure out whether you solved them using the correct method or not, or the shortest method or not. If there is an alternative method that is there, make a note of it. The fourth in the hierarchy are going to be questions that were solved but were not supposed to be solved. They did not deserve to be solved. Now you have solved that particular question and you believe that they did not deserve to be solved. Now when will I say that a question does not deserve to be solved? A question does not deserve to be solved when it is not giving you the average marks per minute that you intended to get at a particular section. So let's say you are targeting a score of 20 marks in quant in a particular mock, which means that you should not have spent more than 2 minutes on a question to gain 1 mark. Right? So that is the average that we are looking at. So if you are looking at spending maybe 5 or 6 minutes on a particular question, then you are affecting your score in a negative manner. In that case, what is the score that you are going to come up with? So let's say you spend 6 minutes getting 3 marks. It is still valid, but at what cost? So ensure that all these questions wherein you took more time than what was required, you are trying to avoid, or these were the questions that were unsolvable. A lot of the mock test providers will classify questions as easy, moderate, difficult, or they will try to categorize these questions on the basis of the percentage of people who solved it correctly. So ensure that you are following these benchmarks. If a question has not been solved by the toppers, it has not really been attempted by a lot of people, then that makes the question undeserving of being solved. So make sure that all these questions are classified as unsolvable, and of course the questions that were attempted by a lot of people correctly, these are the questions that are the solvable ones. So easy and moderate questions will be solvable. The difficult questions or very difficult questions, as is the classification in some mocks, will be the unsolvable ones. So make sure that categorization is properly done. In terms of the fourth thing that I was talking about, solved and unsolvable, and you got it right as well. Now the good thing is you got it right, but you have to figure out what was the opportunity cost of solving that particular question. Now if you solved this one right, but you did not really solve something that should have been solved in the first place, then you know that the first category of questions that you had solved, or the first category of questions that you had revised, that deserved a lot more attention. And this will help you appreciate why questions which were categorized under one, which were categorized under unattempted, not solved, and solvable, these questions were much easier compared to the ones which I will try in this particular bracket. And this will help you appreciate the difference between the level of difficulty of the questions and how solving one question type would have affected your score in a positive manner compared to solving the question type that you actually did during the test. Then comes the fifth one, which will talk about the answers that you got incorrect, but the questions themselves were not solvable. So why did you end up solving this question? Did you overlook something in the question? Was there an alternative solution that would have made your life easier? You have to explore all these things in category 5. Category 6 is basically the ones wherein you did not attempt it and they were unsolvable. Give yourself a pat on the back and ensure that whatever you thought when you made that decision is consistent with what the solution is trying to say. If you want, you can discuss it with some of the mentors that are there, or your friends, or whoever is preparing with you for the test. You can join our Telegram channel and let us know in case you want our perspective on this particular thing. And these are, of course, the questions that you need to avoid at all costs. You don't want to get stuck solving these kind of questions during the actual test. So good job that you had done. And next time when you come across such a question, you have to make sure that you let go of that question at that point in time as well. Now, this is a very important exercise that you have. Once you are done with these things, you will get a list of to-do concepts that are there. Now, write down each and every concept when you're revising a particular mock. So let's say you had a question wherein there was reverse allegation that was done, meaning that there were weights given to you, there was an average weight that was given to you or a weighted average given to you, and one of the two components, again, the composition would have been given to you. You have to figure out what was the other component. And in that particular context, if you write down reverse allegation, that is good enough. Just write down reverse allegation on a piece of paper. Let's say there was another concept or another question that involved the concept of installments. Write down installments on a piece of paper. All those concepts that you should have got in categories 1, 2 and 3 at least. So 1, 2, 3, wherever there are missing concepts, make sure that you are writing down each and every concept that you thought was lacking when it comes to your mock. And once you are done with this thing, look at the individual concepts from the first, second and third blocks as I have mentioned. So fourth, fifth, sixth you can ignore, but first, second, third, all the individual concepts should be in place whenever you are revising a particular mock. So make sure that at least these concepts are in place before you end up appearing for your next mock. Also, get a thorough understanding of the concepts. You can use the concept overview videos that we are putting up on the YouTube channel. You can refer to the books that are available online or in the market. You can look at institute material that exists. You can look at YouTube videos. You can look at any source, but make sure that you have understood the concept thoroughly. And ideally, pick up one source from where you are learning all the concepts, because it is very important that you are consistent, because everybody will have different styles of teaching, everybody will have different styles of learning. You do not really want to get stuck learning in different styles, and now your focus is going to be on should I learn it in this way or should I learn it in that way, should I learn through examples, should I learn through visualizations, should I learn through memory, how exactly am I supposed to learn? And that is the problem. So make sure that you are referring to only one source when it comes to understanding the concepts that are there. Also, re-look the questions after 2 days. Just because you have revised a particular mock and you are done with it doesn't mean that you can forget about it entirely. After 2 days, the 0, 1, 3 technique that I mentioned will mean that you give a gap of 1 day in between, do your routine work, attend your classes, maybe take some other mock if you wish to, solve some questions on your own, practice something, right? So all those things you can do, but make sure that on the 3rd day or the 2 days after you cataloged all the questions and saw all the concepts, you are looking at those questions again, and now try to appreciate the questions again, try to solve them orally, try to arrive at that solution by visualization, and I think you should be fine. So that will basically complete the entire chain. Just looking at questions and saying, oh, this could have been done, oh, this is not really great, oh, this I should have made a better decision, is not going to help you. So after a couple of days, once the entire thing has lost its recency, maybe then you will be able to revise it in a better manner, and that will give you closure. And finally, don't expect miracles whenever you're revising mocks, because what happens is mocks are extremely heterogeneous, meaning every mock will test a different concept. So for example, let's say you have a provider who is giving you 40 mocks. Now, every mock is going to have, let's say I'm talking from the perspective of Quant, let's say 22 questions in each mock, which means there will be 880 questions that will be put to you across the 40 mocks that the institute is going to offer you. Now, there are more than 880 question types for sure that deserve to be a part of the CAT syllabus, so to say, or the CAT, so to say. Now these 880 questions can all be different, which means that no two questions are going to repeat across mocks, which will mean that whenever you are taking a mock, solving a mock, revising it, analyzing it, understanding the topic, becoming independent in terms of implementing it real time, it does not mean that in the next mock you are going to see the same question or a similar question that you can simply apply your newfound knowledge and get better at. It's not going to happen. So don't expect miracles. Of course, you have to ensure that things are getting built at the back of your mind, and that is basically how you will improve as an individual. You will improve in terms of test taking. So make sure that you have a structured approach to revising mocks as well. Don't just look at mocks and just run through them and try to either appreciate yourself that okay, this was a good job that you had done, or this was something that was not done properly. Go slightly beyond that, especially if you are someone who is not very tuned into where your preparation is. So if you have that doubt and you are not sure where your preparation is at that point in time, make sure that you are doing it in a structured manner so that you get proper answers to your questions. Otherwise, if you are a very good candidate, you are a brilliant candidate and you have been performing exceptionally at the mocks, then of course a cursory glance of a mock is also good enough to tell you what is it that you are doing well and what is it that you are not doing properly. So make sure that you are doing it in a structured manner, you are doing it regularly, and the third day is the most important one, wherein you are going back to the test and trying to appreciate whatever you had learned on day one. So make sure that you keep on doing this consistently, and at the end of it, you should see a difference in terms of your learning or the improvement in your the amount of learning that you are going to get from every mock. So do let us know what you think of this video, this technique in the comment section below. Make sure that you do it for a couple of mocks at least, and then let us know how is it benefiting your preparation. For more such videos, make sure that you subscribe to our channel and do share the channel with your friends if you think that they are going to benefit from it.